Happy October 1st, which for most people means it's basically Halloween already. So, sport some horror attire to ring in this October movie collection update. Hello everybody, nice to see all of you, hope you're all doing well. This has been a one hell of a time period. The entire month of September for me was just absolutely slammed, busy, crazy. Some parts of it were good, some parts of it were weird, some parts were just kind of a shit show. September was kind of a crazy month, but during lots of work, lots of just stuff going on. I kept a pretty healthy stack of movies here, and I kept buying some stuff just so every night when I got home I would have something to look forward to, take my mind off of things. So yeah, you guys know the drill by now. Whoever considers themselves the most loyal viewers of me, be my guest. So let's get right into it. We'll kick things off with a movie. I loved everything about it, and I non-ironically say that this is a 10 out of 10 movie. This has a lot of haters. A lot of people I know that are fans of the franchise hate this, and they consider it the one of, if not the worst film. I'm telling you right now, I call bullshit on that. Even people that consider themselves action, oh, this movie's too stupid, it's blah, 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 wah, 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 wah. I'm sorry, I know everyone's entitled to their opinion. I do not see it at all. F9, the director's cut, this is a steelbook of it. I saw this opening night in the theater, been waiting since that horrendous Fate of the Furious, which, you talk about one of the worst of the series. In my opinion, Fate of the Furious is the... Hobbs and Shaw is the worst, and then Fate of the Furious, both of those movies, complete garbage. This gave me everything I wanted, and then some. People are saying it's too stupid. Then go see another movie. You know what you're getting into with Fast and Furious. And there's just so many of the critiques, like, of course they just bring in a brother. Why would Vin Diesel, a man all about family, never talk about his brother? Well, when you live your life under the assumption your brother killed your father, I can understand maybe not wanting to call attention to him. So yeah, everything from, space, all the action, all the characters. I love the backstory. They have all these flashbacks in here with the young Dom and the young Jacob. I saw this opening night in the theaters. I smiled the entire time. I left the theater so elated. This is my number 2 favorite Fast movie behind 5. And they brought Justin Lin back. Fantastic job. I've got a poster for F9 up on my wall right behind where the camera is. Excellent movie, 10 out of 10. I'm excited for No Time to Die coming out soon, but this has hard shoes to follow. So I love everything about this movie. I do not agree with any of the mass hate it gets. This is my movie right here. Shout out to my good friend Jake, who works for Severin Films, for giving me this over at a Flashback Weekend this past July. Drivein Massacre. I didn't know anything about this until until I was talking to Jake. I picked up some movies from him, and this being one of them. And I gotta tell you, as terrible of a movie as this was, it was absolutely hilarious. This is you get like 3 or 4 kill scenes, all of which are formatted the exact same way. Just, cut to some people at this drive-in. They die. Decent makeup effects with some of them, I will say. But like you follow the storyline of these 2 cops, the shittiest music and the shittiest dialogue. The whole thing just feels like they had a half hour's worth of story and are like, shit, we gotta keep going. And even the final runtime of this is only 74 minutes. You have this entire scene in a warehouse with George Buck Flower that has no relevance on, like, the movie just goes on these weird tangents, and then it ends with this like PSA type message. This was a very bad movie, but it was hilariously endearing to watch, even for the shitty like it sounded like porno music. The which is fitting because the director of this got his start in porn. And it's loaded with interviews, commentary, making of, so it's like, they went all out for Drivein Massacre. But thank you, Jake. It was a bad movie, but it was a very entertaining one. It was fun watching this one and just kind of being like, what the hell? I've got 3 Vinegar Syndrome releases. I'm a big fan of Vinegar Syndrome, but I'm not a subscriber. Because usually every month there will be 1 or 2 things that catch my eye, but A, that's a lot of money to be putting over, and just for, I'm about half and half with the movies on the roster. I just go for the ones that I like. I talked about this in an update last year, and so I won't dwell on it too much, but it's Resurrection with Christopher Lambert. Great movie. It's basically a cash-in on 7, and they capture the mood pretty well, but in my opinion, I like this a little bit better than 7, because it takes itself just a little bit less seriously. It's a nice caper, some cool twists in it along the way. Vinegar Syndrome did an awesome job with this release, some good interviews and stuff on there, and this is the original DVD cover, what that looked like. I talked about this last year, so I won't dwell on it too much, but watching it again on Blu-ray, which looks great, by the way, it holds up. Great late 90s gritty thriller. Really enjoy that one. And then this, originally I was not going to buy this. I looked at it on the website because I had never heard of it before. And I was like, this sounds weird, and it's got an interesting cast. But I had never heard of it before. But one of my local stores, Disc Replay, they stock the new Vinegar Syndrome titles. I had a coupon there, and that's where I get a lot of my used DVDs and stuff come from there, and half-price books. And I was walking around there, and I was looking at the news section. They had all the Vinegar Syndrome, Arrow Video, MVD, all the usual suspects in the Blu-ray collecting realm. And they had this there. This was sitting there. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. I don't know shit about it. It's probably going to be terrible. It's this movie called Auntie Lee's Meat Pies. The plot reminded me of Motel Hell. So it's basically like, think of it like Motel Hell, but with Playboy Playmates, Pat Morita, Karen Black, and Michael Berryman. I'm like, okay, it's an interesting cast for considering this is a film I've never heard of in my life, and it's got to be cheesy. And let me tell you, I got a lot more than I bargained for with this, because the first half hour, you sit there, you watch it, you're like, okay, yeah, this is really well, it starts off kind of violent. There's like this, it's the first 5 minutes of this thing are absolutely crazy, so that starts, I'm like, oh shit, like what? But then, for the majority of the first half hour, it is like a campy Motel Hell type movie. But when you hit about the 45 or so minute mark, as soon as you get to the second half, this thing gets really weird really quickly. Like, it turns into almost sort of like a... Like, they go into the different rooms of the house, and each one is like a different nightmare scenario, and it's like this, I don't know if you want to say Tim Burton, or like Alice in Wonderland, like grim fairy tale type thing with this crazy set design, this crazy lighting, and there's this character called the Baby that's just like, what the fuck? Like, it gets, for the first half of the movie, like, I was ready to dismiss it too. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just exactly what it sounds like. Playboy Playmates trying to do this Motel Hell. But then when it gets weird and it goes off the deep end in the second half to where you're invested just because you're like, okay, I don't know where the fuck this is going. It's impossible to tell, like, when it just shifts like that. And then when you have, like, the other plot going on with Pat Morita, Michael Berryman, and Pat Morita's playing, like, this southern sheriff that has to try to figure out what's going on, and this is a weird, I cannot say it's a good movie, because it most certainly is not, but it is entertaining, and it gave me a lot of shit to talk about, like, watching this. I'm like, because I was kind of chatting with one of my friends while I was watching it, and as soon as I hit the weird, when the movie started to get really weird, my demeanor changed. I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm watching right now. So it's like part Motel Hell with Playboy Playmates and part like grim fairy tale fever dream nightmare. It's an interesting, like you won't be bored, I'll say that much. And then the other Vinegar Syndrome, this is one of the archive ones that come in the cool kind of VHS box. Like this, and again, I never heard of this before. I got it. Fred Williamson, Don the Dragon Wilson, Andrew Dice Clay. You got the Hammer and the Dice Man in the same movie. Whatever it takes. It's kind of like a action thriller crime caper. They're smuggling these steroid drugs across these bodybuilders, and people are dying. It's a weird. And Andrew Dice Clay, Fred Williamson, they're the best parts. I watched this one with my dad, and he said the same thing I did. He said it should have just been about those two. Because the main character is Don the Dragon Wilson, and he's the one we follow most. And he's just not that interesting. I'm sorry, but like, when you have the Dice Man and the Hammer in the same movie, you want to see them. Don the Dragon Wilson, he doesn't really offer too much. He doesn't really do too much. It's a fun movie. It's a fine movie. You know, definitely direct-to-video 90s fare for what it is. But and I mean, Andrew Dice Clay is in it a decent amount. It's not like it's just an extended cameo. He's in throughout the whole thing. And Fred Williamson's the main villain. So they're in the movie enough, but it's Don the Dragon Wilson gets the most of the story, and he's like the most involved. I wanted to see more Andrew Dice Clay, just because for what he has in this, it's funny. He gets strangely meta at sometimes in this. He bluntly references Ford Fairlane at one point. They reference Sears at one point in this, which of course makes me laugh given my history with Sears. And even the movie ends with this like 2-minute long tirade that Andrew Dice Clay goes on about how he hates farmers. Like, it's weird. So typical direct-to-90s. It's fun for what it is, you know, don't expect too much. I just wish it was more balanced instead of just focusing on Don the Dragon Wilson for a majority of the time. The other one I got from Jake from Severin at Flashback Weekend this year is Strike Commando. This was a direct recommendation from Mr. Jake. So I'm assuming you're watching this because you were a big fan of my channel. That's why you were talking me into this. And yeah, you know, it's a Bruno Mattei, you know, how they had all the Italian knockoffs, many of which Bruno Mattei was behind. I still have he had a Blu-ray of Cruel Jaws there too, but I've got a bootleg of that. I don't know if Cruel Jaws is a movie I do worship enough to get on Blu-ray. But, you know, this is it's fun for what it is. Strike Commando, 80s Italian Rambo knockoff. I mean, this poster should tell you everything you need to know. He had the sequel there too, but I didn't pick that up. It was this and Drivein Massacre from him. So, but yeah, no, and the ending, like, it's a crazy one. It's a silly one. I need to get Strike Commando 2 now to see how it is. But yeah, you know, what else can I say about that? Shout out to you, Mr. Jake. And this one. This disappointed me. I heard mixed reactions to this one when it came out. I was curious to give it a look. Tower Heist. It's okay, but it's disappointing. This should have been so much better than what it was. I mean, like, you go through some of the two alternate endings, delete alternates. You go through all of the ending, the final ending they gave it is kind of a shitty, like, out of all the things you could have done, and this is the ending they chose for the theatrical final. It's a little weird. But, like, they talk in there about how they wanted to make a serious heist movie first and a comedy second. Yeah, no, that's a really stupid fucking call. And from what I understand, the original idea of this, it was supposed to be like Eddie Murphy, like Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence, Tracy, like they were going to get all the, you know, the big black comedians of the day. And I think that would have been fantastic. I'm a big fan of Eddie Murphy. I love Dave Chappelle. And that would have been awesome. It would have been hilarious. And they give it with this, with Matthew Broderick and Ben Stiller, and it's just, this should be, it's not terrible, it wasn't agonizing to sit through, but it's a whole lot of nothing. I'm sorry, not a lot to this one. It should have been a whole lot better than what it was. And I love heist movies, especially if you can make them comedic. Like I was talking F9, like Fast Five, you know, the Italian Job, all that. I love that kind of stuff. I'll talk about another movie in here that's like that. I'm trying to speed through these quicker. Hot Dog the movie, the uncut producers version, early 80s comedy about skiing. It's described here, Rocky meets Animal House on skis. Like a typical kind of 80s frat comedy, you know, lots of nudity, lots of hijinks in there, you know. Typical of the time. It's screenplay and like stunts by Mike Marvin. I know him because he's the guy that did The Wraith. Good soundtrack, lots of extras. You know, you got commentary, documentary, liner notes, Cliff Magnus Top of the Hill music video, directed by Peter Markle. And there you go. So, I mean, it's fun for what it is. You know, again, looking at the poster, you can guess the crazy hijinks, you know. Even though it's the typical lower brow of the early 80s, lots of stereotypes in there, lots of sex humor. Some of the humor in this is so dumb that it works. I mean, like the Asian character and some of his line delivery is so wrong, but it makes you chuckle because the whole movie does kind of have this heightened sense. And David Naughton's fun is kind of an absent-minded kind of doofus, but he's like the hotshot skier. And, you know, it's refreshing to see a movie from the 80s where the villain is not painted as just like it's all about, you know, the Russians in the 80s. And it's kind of funny how with this movie they just make the main asshole just Germans. Like, yeah, you fuck Russia. Let's just start picking on the Germans for this. So, funny touch, you know. Hot Dog the movie. I got this for free as a part of the Full Moon promotion. It's Jess Franco's Angel of Death, aka Commando Mongolay. This is a piece of crap. Like, I sat there, I watched this thing from beginning to end, just waiting for something funny, bad to happen. But this movie, it does not get funny bad. This is just bad. This sucks. And like the music, they have like a 2-second synth loop, like bum 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 bum. That's like the entire score. And like finally towards the end, you get these makeup effects of like a half human, half monkey guy. But none of it's worth it. This just sucks. Yeah, not good. Not good. However, this might be one of my favorite movies that I've seen all year. I've heard about this in passing before, and people talking highly of it. And again, I picked this up at a Disc Replay, coming out with the MVD. This is actually my very first MVD Rewind Blu-ray. I don't have any of those, so this is my first one. Number 26, according to the spine, and it's Drive with Mark Dacascos, Kadeem Hardison, and the late great Brittany Murphy, you know, Luann herself. And I forget his name, but it also has the guy, I believe he was Mr. Nakatomi in Die Hard, is in this as well. This is just a silly, fun, action comedy to the nth degree. Make sure you watch the director's cut. Okay, both versions of the movie are included on here. Make sure you watch the director's cut. That's what I've learned. And a very, very fun audio commentary with the stars, the director, stunt choreographer. It's the first commentary I've ever listened to where the commentary gets interrupted by one of the guys farting, and they complain about how the booth smelled. So that was interesting. Got deleted scenes, which includes the episode of Walter the Einstein Frog, you know, the best show within a movie ever, and just so much laughing. This is another one. I watch a lot of movies with my dad, and this is one we watched together. We actually watched this on my birthday this year, September 1st. So we sat there, we watched it, and we were just smiling, laughing. It has this crazy finale at the most 90s looking bar ever that's designed to look like a Apollo 14, designed to look like this space station. There's all these neon lights. There's a guy that gets shot in one of those gyroscope things. Like, it's crazy. It almost reminded me, this is not a reference I thought I'd be making to this movie, it almost reminded me of Mondo Burger from Good Burger, throwing it back to the 90s kids out there. But yeah, Drive, action comedy, done perfect. This might literally be in my top 5 movies that I've seen in 2021. Like, I absolutely loved it. Even though this poster is fine, but this poster is weird. That is not a picture of either of them from the movie, so I don't know what the deal with that poster is. This one is more like it, but it's a little strange in that respect. But yeah, Drive, that. The good things I heard were definitely true. That was awesome. I don't think this one needs much introduction. Steven Seagal, Under Siege, probably whether you call it his best movie or his most commercial movie. When you got him, you got drag queen Gary Busey and Mick Jagger, wannabe Tommy Lee Jones, chewing the scenery, doing Die Hard on a battleship. What's not to love? I mean, Under Siege, it's a great movie. Doesn't need much introduction. It's super fun. Even Seagal, like, obviously he's pretty much a joke in and of himself. He's become kind of a punchline. But just his dry delivery, and he delivers every line as if he's a teacher. So it's just funny watching him. Okay, yeah, when you need to take that gun, just take it. Do that. Like, his deadpan and his face, he's funny even when nothing funny's going on. And Busey and Tommy Lee Jones together absolutely steal the movie. And like I always say before, every update I collect one Gary Busey movie and one Paul Walker movie for every update I do, because those are my 2 guys that I'm just collecting all their movies. And finally got here with the Busey collection. So yeah, there we go, Under Siege. And lastly, this was a kind of a passion project for Dax Shepard, him and his wife, Kristen Bell, doing this together. You also have Bradley Cooper in a fun, dread-headed role, and Tom Arnold, who in my opinion is the best character of this film. Hit and Run. This is actually kind of a cool, kind of on the lam kind of thing where Dax Shepard, he's in the witness protection program for testifying against this. You find out it was a bank robbery in California, so now he kind of stays in this rural town, and his girlfriend gets this really important job offer in Los Angeles, and so he has no choice, but he's like, I'm going to get you to your job no matter what, hell or high water. And they go there and they end up being pursued by the crazy ex-boyfriend, as well as the villain, Bradley Cooper, who's the guy that Dax Shepard helped to get put away. All the while, Tom Arnold is playing the marshal that's going after Dax Shepard, trying to protect him. Wait, you gotta sign this paperwork. And he's real bumbling, real dimwit. He's always crashing into things, breaking things. Tom Arnold is a blast in this. I do need to warn you, you do get to see Old Man Dick in this movie, pretty, full frontal. So, viewer beware on that. I know some people like to be warned of that kind of thing before. And I know Dax Shepard, he's hosting that show like on the Speed Channel or the Motor Channel. He's hosting like this car, like hot rodding show that my dad was talking about. And there's lots of random cameos in this from Jason Bateman, David Koechner, like lots of comedians in this. Beau Bridges shows up in kind of a small but a fun role. Fun movie. I liked Hit and Run. I never really knew much about that one before, but I liked it a lot. And then the Paul Walker movie of the collection, I vaguely remember when this came out, hearing of it, and just now got around to seeing Pawn Shop Chronicles. I know this one's kind of a mixed bag with people, and I can see why, and I gotta ultimately say I was not that big a fan of this one. It starts out really strong. Like, the wraparound story at the pawn shop itself is fun, where you have Chi McBride is the one guy. Is it Vincent D'Onofrio? I'm terrible with some of these names. I don't know, but the 2 guys at the pawn shop is fun, and it's a very like Pulp Fiction go, like those kinds of movies where it's the three intertwining stories. It does that here, where they're all connected via these items that show up at a pawn shop, and they relate kind of in the execution. And the first story with Paul Walker and co., they're these complete Confederacy, Deep South meth heads, which is fun seeing, again, a true testament to how good of an actor Paul Walker was and how underrated he was outside of just the Fast and the Furious series. That one was fun, and it was funny. I was laughing a lot, and because this whole movie dangles this really weird line between being a comedy and being serious, because then, like, when you get to the second story about the guy trying to find his wife, it's like, it goes into, like, this really dark, like, exploitation route with Elijah Wood and what he's doing to these women. And then it ends, but then Elijah Wood comes back at the ending of it. Like that, I did not like that at all. Like the way they handled it and the way they portrayed the women in captivity. And keep in mind, guys, I am not the biggest SJW in the world. I am not, like, none of that stuff. Just the way they do it all here, I'm like, this is just coming off kind of tasteless. And especially the way the story goes. And then you get to the third story about the Elvis impersonator played by Brendan Fraser, which is like, it serves no purpose. There's not really there's some weird shit with a barbershop competing. Yeah, Paul Walker's bit is the highlight. And it starts on I really like that story about the meth heads and stuff, but then, like, when you get into the one with Matt Dillon and the wife and Elijah Wood, and from there on out, it just goes kind of, like, the plot becomes very scatterbrained. There's nothing gets resolved even by the end of the thing. It makes no sense, and it tries to be a comedy, and like Thomas Jane is the man. That never gets explained at all. Like, who the fuck he was. He only pops up in one story. I say pass on this one, guys. I liked the first story with Paul Walker and, you know, the meth. That one was fun. There's some fun discussions in that, but the third one with Brendan Fraser as the Elvis is just stupid. Like, there's no purpose. It's a weird little movie. Make up your own minds, but I personally was not a fan of this one. And here's a movie that has like a 2 out of 10 on IMDb, and there does not exist a single positive review. Every single review on IMDb, 1 star. Everyone just saying how this is the biggest piece of crap. There does not exist a positive review of this film anywhere. I thought this movie was really fun. The Misfits with Pierce Brosnan, you know, it's a heist movie, you know. It's low budget, sure, it's got, you know, direct to video. Okay, sure, but for the amount of hate that this has, there is not a single positive review. Rennie Harlan came back to direct it. 2 out of 10. Bullshit! Like, you give a movie like this the pass, or a movie like this the pass, and this is better than most of the shit out there today. Like, I don't understand it. I gave this at least a 7 out of 10. Like, I don't see what the big problem with this is. It's a simple heist movie, but it's a fun one. It was entertaining. It was funny. Pierce Brosnan I really liked in it. I was, you know, very strong Ocean's 11 kind of vibe to it, but I was on board. I was having fun. But apparently I'm the only person on the planet who liked this. And I liked it. I had fun. But apparently I'm alone in that. Apparently I'm the only one on the planet who does not think this is the biggest piece of shit in the world. I don't understand it. I, Ken Pataki, on October 1st, 2021, am saying Fast 9 and The Misfits are both great movies, and I challenge any of you to sue me over it. Seriously, guys, I thought it was fun. I honestly don't know where the hate's coming from, but that's just me. And this is one that on the opposite end, I know has a big cult following. Huge shout out to my friend Ryan who sent this to me, because we're kind of going through a Leslie Nielsen binge. Ever since I got that golf video he did back in like January, I got that. I've been a big fan of revisiting all of Leslie Nielsen's. In the last update, I showed Wrongfully Accused. which I absolutely love. That was hilarious. I loved Wrongfully Accused. And this is a Mel Brooks movie. So right then and there, I was excited. Dracula, Dead and Loving It. Guys, I'm sorry. I thought this was terrible. Like, the highlight of the movie is Leslie Nielsen. But even then, his material is worn extremely thin. Like, there's only so much he can even do to save a movie. They made the big mistake of setting this in the actual Anglo-Saxon period to be like the original Dracula, so everyone speaks with that Anglo-Saxon, Old English dialect. The jokes, it's just not a funny movie. There's only a couple laughs I got. One, when Leslie Nielsen is using his curse and his powers to move the maid and the woman around the bedroom, and he's moving the wrong woman. That made me chuckle. When Steven Weber does the stake in the heart and the whole river of blood comes out. I didn't expect it, and that made me laugh. And at the end, when the Leslie Nielsen is in the light and his high-pitched voice is, "Oh, you asshole!" That line made me chuckle. But overall, this was Mel Brooks. What the hell are you doing, man? This was not good. It just wasn't funny. Like, when Leslie Nielsen is struggling to make the content work, you know you got a problem. But I mean, no hate to Leslie Nielsen. He does good, and he is the highlight of the movie. Kudos to Ryan. Thank you for sending it to me and contributing to the Leslie Nielsen collection. This movie just didn't do it. It just was not funny. Like, I'm sorry, guys. But it's good to have it for Leslie. Alone, this was a thriller I bought pretty blindly, never heard of it before. It's very simplistic, it has a very small cast. It's okay, it's predictable, it's okay, it's average. It's not as tense as you would like it to be. I've seen better. The villain in this being like this total Ned Flanders, Jeffrey Dahmer with the big glasses type was a little odd. It's got a nice, satisfying ending. Like, I like that how the woman fights back at the end is actually pretty badass. I liked it. It's just kind of, I just kind of call it average. Just kind of run-of-the-mill. Heart-pounding. Like, it takes a while to get to the setup. Like, the chase through the woods and stuff. I wish it would have gotten there sooner. It could have used a little bit more suspense, a little bit more in the way of stakes, but as it stands, it actually wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it. For what it was. You know, it's not great, but, and from what I understand, it's like a remake of a foreign film. I think it was a French film, or, I forget if it says, yeah, I don't know. It's not bad. Same with this Bull Durham. I wanted to get Field of Dreams, you know, because the White Sox played the Field of Dreams game back in August, but of course during that time period that movie was impossible to come by. I still need to pick that up, Field of Dreams, because that's an excellent movie. But Bull Durham, this contains, when it's him and Tim Robbins, this contains one of my all-time favorite movie lines. Oh yeah? From what I hear, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat. To this day, that's like my favorite movie insult of all time. You know, good baseball movie. It's funny, it's goofy, definitely R-rated, so, you know, keep your head there, but yeah, good one. I need to get Field of Dreams, though, but, you know, that's a fun one. Grosse Point Blank with John Cusa. I've been wanting to get around to this one for a while. Similar to the last, similar to like something like Alone. It's good, it's average, it's fun for what it is, but it's too much of a rom-com. Like, I wish they would have focused on, like, the thriller, action, hitman aspect of it a bit more, like with Dan Aykroyd, because as it stands, that stuff is all secondary to the rom-com stuff with Minnie Driver. Like, it's a rom-com first, and the hitman kind of stuff comes separate. John Cusack, everybody does well. Dan Aykroyd's a lot of fun. I just wish... I'm not a rom-com guy, as you could probably tell. So that was the main thing doing it in for me with this one. I just wish a lot of that other stuff. But, you know, the stuff that takes place at the reunion is good, but then it goes into more drama and it's okay. It's not really up my alley. I think it could have been with a few tweaks, but And this is another one, Cube, that I'd known about this. I knew the plot of it for a while. I just never got around to seeing it. Now I finally did. Did not recognize a single one of the actors in it, but they all did good for what they had to do. And it's a good thriller. You know, it's a very mathematical movie. Lots of math, lots of numbers. I graduate. I'm done with school. You know, I got my bachelor's in 2019, and my education's pretty much done. So that being said, I never thought I was going to have to hear the word permutation again in my life. So it may add some humor to this, but no, it's good. It's very suspenseful. It's a movie that makes you think. You're constantly like, man, what is going on? And this movie really does not answer any of those questions. So, but at the same time, that's kind of the appeal of it, because it's kind of a mystery. And I know there's 2 sequels to this. I don't know too much about them or their reputation. So if anybody's seen the Cube sequels, I think there's 3 of them total. Comment below, let me know how they are, if they're anywhere near as good as this one is. But no, this was very good, very solid, good thriller. I liked it. The ending, like the final stinger at the end, to me felt very tacked on and very forced. I would have ended it a little differently. It felt like kind of especially for one particular character, it felt like much too much of a cheap shot after everything they had done. To me, the way it ends isn't exactly up to par with the rest of the script. I don't know if that was a studio direction or in the screenplay or what. It's got 3 writers credited to it, so I don't know, But, you know, ending aside, you know, I would have changed a few things about it, but overall, great, really solid suspense thriller with some gore in there. And yeah, let me know if the sequels are worth checking out, because I've kind of got an itch for that now. This is a bootleg of Buried Alive 2, a sequel to the Tim Matheson, Jennifer Jason Leigh movie I got earlier this year. Really loved that one, too. Like, I thought that was an excellent TV movie. And this, Tim Matheson actually directed it, and he reprises his role. It's not as good as the first one. I mean, obviously not. My biggest gripe, obviously this never got released. This is a bootleg I got on eBay. But it's not the best. I mean, the biggest flaw with this is that it's the first movie done again. It hits all the same plot points, most of them, and stuff, so it's very strong sequelitis where it's the first movie done again. The main guy that's the villain, because it's kind of gender swap. This time it's the girl that gets buried alive, and it's the guy trying to kill her to be with his annoying blonde bimbo mistress. The guy is not very charismatic. I don't even remember the actor's name. He's not that good. Tim Matheson is good in it, being kind of a world-weary version of his character from the first movie, and it does directly tie into the first movie. Several of the events get pretty bluntly referenced and showcased in here. I do like the finale. I like the way this one ends. It really held my attention. It's just not to the, you know, don't go out of your way to see it if you like the first one. But if you do like the first one, I mean, this one, it won't ruin anything for you. It just kind of adds on to the story, so, you know, Buried Alive 2 is solid. This one was not solid. To keep going up on my James Bond trek, got the unofficial James Bond movie that came out the same year as Octopussy, Never Say Never Again. It's a non-Eon film. I thought this was absolutely terrible. I did not like anything about this. Sean Connery seemed bored. He seemed like he was sleepwalking through it. The song sucks. The very bad, the stupid like video game scene just didn't fit. Like, I did not like this one at all. And I actually like Octopussy, so sue me. But this one, no, not very good at all. I mean, this was a better Bond movie than that was, and this is a parody of it. And it's actually a pretty fun one. I like this. With Peter Sellers is there. I always love Peter Sellers, David Niven, Orson Welles, Woody Allen. My only gripe with this is that it's too long. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes. This Casino Royale, the parody of James Bond, this spoof movie, It did not need to be that long, but then again, every James Bond movie's pretty much that long, so who am I saying? But, yeah, it's fun, you know, real dry, real witty, you know, might not be for everyone. I had fun with it, though. I like this one. Certainly more than that piece of crap. Another gift from Ryan. Neither of us had ever heard of this. He just sent it to me on a blind whim. This movie called Permanent, which it's supposed to take place in 1982, but it's 1975. Like, it's the disco ball. Every single character, every single house, it's all yellow and brown, and this is complete 1975. So I don't know where they're getting the 1982 from. They even, just part of the nostalgia biting trend that I'm so sick of. But anyway, I digress. The movie is terrible. There's absolutely nothing to offer on this. Ryan told me, he said, yeah, I got it from Dollar Tree. I'm like, oh, well, that kind of shows him this. Yeah, no. Like, this is not good. It's predictable. It's, at the same time, it's like trying to figure out what audience it's made for. At some points it feels like an R-rated adult comedy, and at points it feels like a Disney Channel, like, motivational movie for kids. Like, weird movie. It can't even decide what time period it wants to set itself in. There's a reason I never heard of this. This was not that good. Again, Ryan, thank you so much for, and please, weird stuff like this is what I revel in. So, like, this is absolutely par for the course for what I love to be sent and show. It's just that this particular one didn't work out. But again, Ryan, thank you for taking the time to send that to me. And, hey, gave me something to talk about, so there you go. Permanent. Just about done. Rolling Vengeance. I had actually seen this a long time ago, and I was not a fan of it. So now I rewatched it now just to get a feel, now that I've got a bigger affinity for bad movies, and especially, I think this was a Canon film. It's not very good. There needed to be way more of the monster truck, way more action, revenge, carnage. But as it stands, Ned Beatty, you know, it's a funny movie to watch. I laughed several times during this, because I watched it once years ago and I pretty much forgot everything about it. But watching it again, it's like, okay, like every time one of the hillbilly villains, bloody hell, what the hell is that thing? And you just see the most redneck monster truck ever coming down the street shooting flames. Like, it's impossible not to have somewhat enjoyment with that. It takes too long to get to that point. I wanted more of the vigilante justice stuff happening, and that stuff mostly comes in like the final third. And the soundtrack is terrible. I'm trying to think like there's that song, coming up on you. Like, some of the songs in this were laughable. But as it stands, like, I'm a big fan of the beat. I mean, 80s canon films, there's something to love with pretty much any of them. And this has its merits. And the monster truck stuff is really fun. I just wish there was more of it, and I wish the movie got to it a lot quicker. And then speaking, like, back in January, I got the Leslie Nielsen Bad Golf Made Easier VHS, which I thought was hilarious. I loved it. So I thought this was right up my alley. It's got Tim Conway, Eddie Deazen's in a bunch of them. It's the all 8 specials that Tim Conway did of the Dorf. This is the Superfan collection. There's a few laughs to be had, a few funny visual jokes, like when Tim Conway as Dorf, like, stands up in the bed, he's like laying down, he just springs. Some of that stuff is funny, but overall this, I'm sad to say, I did not really like this. I did not think these were that funny at all. Sorry. Like, this was hilarious, and it's not even really a comedy. But this, I'm sorry. Sorry, Tim. And to end out the update here with a wonderful note, this was a birthday gift from my mom this year. This is the newer Image DVD, so it doesn't have any of the special features or documentaries on it, but this is the complete series of Sledge Hammer. I loved every episode, you know. This is such a fun, dry spoof of all of those 80s cop shows, you know, whether it be like Police Squad or the movie Tracks with Shadoe Stevens. That's the vibe that this has. And it's funny because they thought they were being canceled after the first season. So when you see how the first season ends, you're like, oh my god. And then when you see how the second season starts to follow up from that, it's the funniest thing. It's super dry, super witty. Everything about this is just hilarious. I can't even pick the game show episode's a lot of fun. The Amish, you know, Witless, I think the episode was called, and yeah, so much I can say about Sledge Hammer. Such a fun show. I don't know why it took me so long to get to it, but yeah, this was. And Brion James, he's in a couple episodes. Brion James, he's in one episode where he's leading this baby smuggling ring on the black market. You know, typical Brion James. But then there's another, and I never gave Brion James good enough credit for how good of an actor he is. There's another episode in here where Brion James plays a